Okay, so today I'm going to be drawing a fox from this image right here. But for now, we're going to do a sketch using this image that is Creative Commons. It's important that if you do use a reference photo from online, that you've gotten either permission or they've established that it's something that they would like others to use. So I'm going to start with the face, and so since it's to the right, it's got to be as close to the right without getting smushed up against the edge of the piece, so at the edge of the paper. So I'm just gonna do lightly sketch it. It's got kind of a triangle ear there and a triangle ear there. This is going to be kind of a cartoony illustration of a fox. It's not going to be super realistic. I'm going to try to make it simple for you. So the ears are essentially almost exactly triangles. They have kind of rounded tops and they have kind of rounded bottoms, but they're not exactly all one color. So there's some fur going on in here that's kind of a lighter color, but we'll come back to that. So now I've connected the two ears. I think it's they're a little bit closer in the image, but it's gonna be fine. So then I've done the top of the face, which is kind of going inward on both sides from the edges of the ears, going inwards, and then I'm just putting this kind of imaginary line between the two of them so that I can see the how the eyes are going to set towards the I want them to be kind of on the same plane. And if I just drew the eyes, sometimes one is down here and sometimes one is up here. It's best if we give ourselves a little guide to see, to make it easier to see where the eyes are gonna go. So typical eyes, these are similar shape to human eyes. So they have the almondy shape. So you do the top almond and the curve and then the bottom curve. This one is a little bit thicker. It's a little bit taller and not as wide, but because they have so much black around their eyes, I'm just going to color that in and try to get them as close to the same size and shape as I can. So with drawing anybody that's alive, animals or people, the eyes are where it's at. You want to make them come to life as much as you can. So I've done where our whites are on humans. This fox has some darkness right there. The eyes are showing really dark in this picture, but I'm going to have them be kind of a mid. So lightly take your pencil over, or whatever you're drawing with, over the pupil, the iris of the eye. And then as far as this is in the daytime, so in the nighttime, the foxes have really good sense of sight. They're mostly nocturnal, but they do have, instead of having a exact circle like we do, our pupils, they have kind of the cat, feline, snaky kind of pupils that go kind of in an oval, dark oval. And so what I do to bring the life is I'm just going to erase a little bit of this what you can do is, if you want to just have a lighter color, if you have a white, that light, reflective light really shows the life of the animal. And my eyes, I've made a little bit larger than the eyes on the reference photo, but I think that's gonna be okay. If you want, you can go back and erase it, which I may do if I do a second one leading up to the painting. And when I go from my drawing to my canvas, then I'm gonna look through and see where I need to make the changes. So I'm just gonna draw it right now and then make changes as I go. Sometimes you're gonna see that like your drawing is way different than the reference photo, and a lot of times that's good because you want it to be your own, but sometimes it just no longer looks like the animal. So this is going to be, this line is kind of out at a diagonal, curves around the bottom, and then back up at a diagonal. And then the nose at the end is dark, but it has a light reflection in the top. So I'm just going to color it mostly in, minus a little crescent along the top that's left white to show the reflection. So the ears are a little too small, I see. I'm gonna really exaggerate it, and that way I can make the face kind of more round too. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I'm saying, this is how I do it. I just kind of go from the image, and there's a line down there connecting the nose to the mouth. I do my images my own way. I don't really use a lot of rules. I don't use, it makes it my own, which I really appreciate. So this is looking kind of like a coyote or a dog at this point. There's the pointy ears. The face is not as foxy as I would like it just yet, but I'm gonna keep adding some shape to it, because you want it to be, see, the shape of the head, and I'm going to go this even farther. Forgive all these other sounds. So you want the shape to be kind of reminiscent of a fox. You know how they are. They have the orangey color at the top, typical illustration, and then they have the white around the face, and they get kind of more pointy towards the bottom. So I'm going to make his mouth a little bit smaller, actually, because it was looking too much like a dog to me. And then I'm going to make it more of a pointy face. Oops, goodness. So this is kind of the shape I would see, like think of a fox being. This is my little illustration that's got the kind of caricature. And then of course the eyes are a little bit smaller on the image, so I'm gonna make my eyes on my other one a little bit smaller as well. But same thing. So just use this as your guide. Use my drawing as well as your reference as a guide. I'm going to put a link to the image that I've used for the reference, so you can try again another time. This guy needs more fuzz, so I'm just going to do a little bit of extra fur to indicate that there's that's like the shape of his face, the skull, but he really, it makes him look bigger because he's got a lot more fur along here. And then I'm gonna do some fur along the ears as well. Okay. So you'll see that there's some shading on this side because the light is coming from the top right, the sun, I'm assuming. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my pencil lightly over this bottom right side. So the top left, the sun is coming from there. The ears are gonna be a little dark because the back of this ear is where the sun is coming from, probably behind the ear a little bit. And then I'm gonna go make that a little bit darker as well. And in here too, because this is underneath this top layer. And so it's got like a little bit of a, not a lip, but a different plane on the eyebrow. Anyway, you can go back and do little fur as you go along, but I'm gonna just keep moving on. Okay, so this neck line starts at the bottom right of this cheek right here, so the face. So I'm gonna try to, it's gonna look a lot skinnier because I'm going along the shape of the body and the fur comes away from the body, so that's what gives it that look, that it's a little bit more fluffy. But I'm gonna start as I do it, kind of going more along the shape of the body, and then we can fill it in with fur as we go along. So that's the neck. I've gone down at a, I don't know, 45-degree angle, and then kind of curved down more vertically, and then gone back around more horizontally. And if you look at the reference, that will make more sense. And then this leg doesn't actually start at this bottom point, it starts up here a little bit. So I'm going to start the leg up here on the chest, and then it kind of follows that same line a little bit, this line down here, and then it goes down, and we have the feet are cut off. So what I'm going to do on mine is just leave them out, and then I will add some decorative elements, maybe not flowers exactly, but I will make it kind of more like the ground as it is in the photo. So there's the one leg, the one front part of the leg, just kind of straight. Then we have the back of the leg, which is, I'm really hoping that I get this entire fox. What I should have done, and I still can do, is to have the image be, I may tape another piece of paper so that it's more, what we call landscape direction orientation. Then this is the way that my paper is now, is portrait orientation. The way that I should have done this, because it's such a long animal, I should have done it in a landscape orientation, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back in a little bit on this leg, and then it kind of goes up. There's a, I don't know what you would call it. I don't know fox anatomy very well. An elbow, a knee of the fox right there. And then this back leg starts kind of in front of this other leg. You can't see it as well because it's dark, but then there's the front of it, and the back, the front of this back leg, this front left leg is behind this front right leg. But we need to see the back of it as well. So it continues down through here, and we want to make it similar maybe a little bit smaller because it's farther away, but as far as seeing it on here, there's not really much to see. So I'm gonna just put grass there as an indicator that when I go to do my painting, that's hidden. What you can do is you can kind of, if you really know fox anatomy, or if you want to look into other reference photos to get an idea of what their feet look like. They have kind of dog-like feet, and you can add the feet if you want, but just remember, if you do add the feet of the forefront, that the ones in the back are going to be a little bit farther away and behind this other one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add these kind of goofy looking feet anyway, because instead of erasing them, it's just easier that way. So that if you want to keep it the grass level, that's fine too. But I do pretty well to add kind of goofy add-ons to mine, even though they're not, maybe not anatomically correct, they do seem to work. Okay, so now I'm going to do the back line. And then as far as the lines, we just want to get a good idea of where things are, so that when we go to do our sketch onto the canvas, that we have already a basic skill of where things belong, and our basic knowledge of where things belong, as well as how we want to change things. So they have really long, kind of down at an angle to the bottom left a little bit. And then what I might do is, like I said before, I have two pieces here, and if you do have, you might want to have your paper like that next time. If you do have more paper, you may want to try this. Otherwise, it's fine to just, let me make sure it's all in focus. Okay, yep, there we go. Okay, so in the initial part of the video, hopefully I will go back and tell you to do your paper feather orientation. Okay, so I've put a long line there. His bum is kind of rounds down a little bit, then it curves, and then you got the tail right here. And the tail isn't really shown, the end of the tail. What I'm gonna do is just add my like little version of it. And the tail is not a typical foxy illustration of a tail. That looks not mangy, but it looks light. It's probably a younger fox. So what I'm going to do is make it look more more foxy, more cartoony version of what a fox is. So and then we know they're kind of known for the white fluffy, and then there's orange. So now I have to go back to the chest, or the stomach now. So see where I've gone out at this, whatever we're calling this now, a knee. I'm gonna put my stomach inwards from that. And then this leg, this hind leg, is really pointing back, kind of in the similar line than this tail. It's outward. So I'm going to follow that line, and then I'm going to look at where I put my foot. And I'm going to kind of mock in a foot here, because I know that they kind of go back and away like that. See how it has that knee again, in the back, and then it kind of goes in like that. And this has got some wild long fur along the back end there. So I'm just going to leave that kind of fuzzy, and then like I did with the front feet, I'm gonna just kind of do some makeshift foot there. And then the other hind leg, I may hide a little bit more because it's a little bit more difficult. It looks as though it's on a hill, but so I'm going to start with the back of that leg so that I can give this leg some room and so that you can see. Actually, okay. So see how I went back and I raised the knee a little bit. They're almost at the same height, and so as far as rules go, I don't really use a lot of rules, and I think that really helps my work kind of give me some differentiates me from some of the other art as I kind of go my own way, and a lot of other artists do as well. But that just, we know that it's not going to be super anatomically correct, but these, at least they're kind of some on the same plane. So this one might be a little bit too far down, but these are similarly like on the same line, and that's just as it would be on the Fox illustration. So as far as shading and such, so we have this bottom that's definitely not getting any sun, so I'm going to color that in a little bit. This back hind leg is not going to be seen by the sun, the inside of it, so color that in a little bit. This in the front back leg, front rear leg, hind leg. The one that's farthest from us is not seen, so. And then there's some shading going on in here, on this bottom part of the tail. The inside of this, their leg is a lot skinnier, so I might make mine a little bit skinnier as well. Just use your best judgment of where things go. Don't be afraid to use an eraser. That's what they're there for. Mistakes were made. I don't know if you've seen Timmy Failure from Disney Plus, but it's cute. They say mistakes were made. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to really darken up my lines, kind of solidify them and get a better idea of, let's see, actually before I do that, let me shade in some of this here, the chest. This is all going to be a little bit darker than, because it's underneath, but we have to remember that this is also like a different color than the back. So even though this is darker than the nose, the same, it's probably a similar color for this, is probably a little bit white or gray or brown because it's, you know, out in the wild. It's still going to be it's darker because it's not seen by the light, but it's also lighter or similarly colored than to the fur that's around on the side here, because this is kind of more of a mid color. This is a lighter color, but because it's not being seen by the sunlight, it is showing up as a similar color to the back. So I'm just going to keep adding a bunch of fur here. Kind of stylistically, it does not look realistic whatsoever, but that's part of my thing. And then it's got it going all the way up the front. There's even some kind of flyaways going on here in the back, which I love. I love when there's a little bit of a frazzle. And even on this tail, there's some frazzly long ones, because they don't have brushes. And so they have more of a wild look. And just gonna add some fur. It's really just a cute illustration if you just want to leave it like this. Since I'm going to be doing the painting on a different day, most likely, this is a good enough kind of point to end. I'm going to, however, I'm going to go back and, like I said, kind of darken some of my lines. I'm going to make this foot a little bit shorter right there. And then again, we have to remember that in this image, we're not seeing it in this photo, but there's going to be a shadow underneath the creature, underneath the fox. And so especially underneath the body where it's closest, the head is farther away, there will be a little bit of a shadow there too, but we have to really focus the shadow under the body. Even where the tail is, there's probably not going to be a lot of shadow because light is still kind of working its way around there. I'm making some more grass to indicate that it isn't grass. There's the, you know, within the image, there's grass behind it as well. So if you look at the fox from above, there's grass on the other side. You can't see it because of the way that it is. So you can draw grass behind as well. It's a little bit fun in this image because there's all this like other plant life going on in the background. So you can add that if you want to. I'm going to. And you can make it as loose or as detailed as you want. I keep getting distracted when I go to do my lines. Okay, so there's that. This top part obviously is fur. Okay, so I said earlier that I was going to go back and do some of this detailing in the ear. So there's fur coming out from the inside of the ear. The inside of the ear is darker than this edge of the ear. It's a little bit dark in there, but it's, you know, as things are hidden from the sun, it gets darker and darker. Okay, so do that again over here. All right, that's basically it. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'd be happy to answer anything any questions that you have. Basically, I've just drawn this with a Bic number 2 pencil. It's 0.7 millimeters. It's super accessible. You likely have something similar at home. This is something that you can do if you're not planning on showing anybody. You can do any kind of image for your reference. You don't have to use Creative Commons references since you're just practicing. But when you do go to kind of share your work, make sure that you have permission from the photographer as they have the copyright over it. See, okay. You can go back and do any kind of other decorative elements that you want. I'm just filling this in. And I might do some more flowers and such in the background and maybe get rid of that, or I don't know. It's just a sketch, but when I go to work on my canvas, I know that I'm going to want it to be landscape orientation, that I'm going to want to start the head on the right side, give myself plenty of space to do the entire body. What I might do is a simple sketch of it, so just like some ovals to kind of indicate where things are going to go before I go through and do detail. That makes it a lot easier. So if you break this down, it's kind of a egg shape, the body is, and then the tail is kind of a oval-y shape, and the head is kind of a triangle-y, circular triangle, and then you get the legs there. So just make sure that you have enough room for your entire fox to go on your canvas before you even start sketching it. My advice to you is to paint the background color of the canvas first, and then what I tend to do is to go over the basic outside lines of the fox or whatever animal or creature or person or whatever it is that I'm doing with white paint. So I'm going to be showing that next time, as well as coloring it in and figuring out how this works for everyone. If you have any questions, I'm going to be opening a group in my Facebook that is just for students of these classes. So I will be putting that in the details of this video as well. So there's that. I hope your fox looks foxy and that you've enjoyed watching my video. Thank you for stopping by. Much love.